At this time, I'd like to call it the September 1st, 2015 meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education to order. Mr. Board Secretary, this meeting has been advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act.
Yes, it has, Mr. McEnroe.
Can everybody please stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Balka. Here. Mrs. Backo.
Here.
Mrs. Bloom.
Here.
Mr. Brzezinski.
Here.
Mr. Sayak.
Here.
Mrs. DePinto.
Here.
Mrs. Trapp.
Here.
Mr. Walsh.
Here.
Mr. McEnroe.
I'm present. I need a motion to go into executive.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Can you read the resolution, please?
Mr. Walsh, second that?
Yes.
Whereas Section 80 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Education of the Borough of Sayreville, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of any action upon the hereinafter specified subject matter. General nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Personnel, including but not limited to agenda items. One item, suspension of a Sayreville Education Association member. Another item, attorney-client privilege, various legal issues associated with the Sayreville War Memorial High School football program. And third, negotiations, Sayreville Education Association contract, July 1, 2016 to June 30th, 2019. As anticipated at this time, the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Balka.
Yes.
Mrs. Backo.
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom.
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski.
Yes.
Mr. Sayak.
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto.
Yes.
Mrs. Trapp.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. McEnroe.
Okay, the board will retire to executive session, remain in there until 7:30 for public.
The public.
I'd like to call to order the December 1st, 2015 meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education. Everybody please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Board Secretary, has this meeting been advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act?
Yes, it has, Mr.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Balka.
Here.
Mrs. Backo.
Here.
Mrs. Bloom.
Here.
Mr. Brzezinski.
Here.
Mr. Sayak.
Here.
Mrs. DePinto.
Here.
Mrs. Trapp.
Here.
Mr. Walsh.
Here.
Mr. McEnroe.
I am present. Can you please synopsize the executive session, please?
This evening in executive session, under item 1, personnel, including but not limited to agenda items under that, suspension of a Sayreville Education Association member. And item number 2, attorney-client privilege, various legal issues associated with the Sayreville War Memorial High School football program. Item number 3, negotiations, Sayreville Education Association contract, July 1, 2016 to June 30th, 2019.
Dr. Labby, it's my understanding that we have some very brief presentations today.
Yes, we do, Mr. McEnroe, but if you don't mind, may I make a request for a slight change?
Of course, you're the
Seeing
superintendent.
that we have our student council rep here tonight, maybe we can have a presentation. I do not want to waste our students' time here.
Mr. Bruce, what he's trying to tell me is this is going to be a long presentation, so so we're going to skip to you, if you can tell us
Thank you, I
what's going
appreciate
on in campus.
The high school held its annual blood drive today. There was a great turnout. Many students
Mr.
were
Bruce, can you
eager-
just use the microphone a
Oh.
second?
Yeah, that might help. There was a great turnout. Many students were eager to donate blood. There will be parent-teacher conferences this Thursday and Monday. And as the holiday season approaches, Student Council will be conducting a gift wrapping sale at the high school where anyone from the community can come here after school and get their gifts wrapped for a cheap price. And that date is still to be determined, but there will be a district email sent out. And also, there will be a student council trip to the retirement home to sing Christmas carols and play games. And the third annual decorating contest for the hallways and doors will begin this month. And lastly, all winter athletics have begun at the high school.
Outstanding. We doing any sports this winter?
No, not this winter, this spring.
Just concentrate on your academics till you graduate.
Yep.
Sure. Very good. You can, if you have to go home and take
Mr.
care of
Magno,
homework.
before he
Yes.
leaves, I do have one question. How were the quarterlies received? I know we transitioned from the midterms and the
question.
finals. I got some varied feedback, I guess, when I went in for back to school for legislators there. I was wondering what you were hearing from your students.
Luckily, myself, I did pretty well on them. But if you did do bad, it brought your grade down significantly. It was a big change from the midterms. Because with this system now, you could do great the entire year, but if you do poorly on the one test at the end, it brings your entire quarter grade down. Whereas the midterm, the way that worked, you could do good on both quarters and still be able to keep your grade up, even if you didn't do so well on the midterms or finals.
And then in the end, it all adds up in the end anyway. Like, it works out the same, though, doesn't it? By the final?
Is the weighting the same?
Maybe it does, but it definitely feels a lot different.
Mathematically, for your overall final grade, it's the same thing.
It's the same.
But it does impact your quarterly grade differently.
Yeah,
So what you're saying, if you do well on everything, you don't have to worry about it.
yeah.
If you s-
I like it. That's sound advice. Well,
right, well, good job.
Any other questions for Mr. Bruce?
Nope.
If not, thank you again, sir.
Very
Appreciate
nice.
it.
Thank you.
I'll take care of this for you.
Thank you,
Hook you
appreciate
up.
it.
All right.
Okay, we have two presentations for you today. We're going to do our budget development kickoff, and then Mr. Pantiliano and Mrs. Komprowski are here today. I don't see Mr. Oh, there he is. I didn't recognize him. He cleans up really well. They're here to present to you today the capital projects and buildings and grounds budget. Just so, as we have done now for the past 2 years, we are now entering the budget development season. Back in September, Board of Education members, you approved our budget development calendar. Since that time, we have received feedback from the state, or the dates from the state in terms of which, when things are due. So to review the budget calendar, today, obviously, we're going to kick things off. We'll have our buildings and grounds and capital projects budget presentation today. And by the way, all these budgets are proposed. Okay. At the end of this week, all of our principals and administrators that take part in entering budget figures into our system will have that done by Friday, so that Mr. DeAndrea can get that information over to our Finance and Infrastructure Committee by the 8th, and then hopefully we can get a preliminary budget to all of our Board of Education members by the 15th. Okay? That will give you some basic understanding of what we're looking at in terms of the financial state that we're in now, as well as what we're looking to do for the 2016-17 budget. Going ahead, on the 15th, we'll have a food services presentation. As you know, that's not part of the budget, but if you recall last year, it's a great opportunity for us to see what kind of revenue we're generating this year and how the revenue generation this year will help us develop a food services budget for next year. Also, on the 15th, we are going to be doing the State of the Schools address. And if you remember, last January, we did something similar to that. We originally planned last fall to do it in October, but we weren't able to do so for the reasons that are pretty obvious to all of us that occurred last fall. We didn't have our State of the Schools address this fall because we did not receive our PARCC scores or our SAT scores. We do have our PARCC scores now. Dr. Shediak is organizing them into a presentation for you. She also has our SAT scores and some of our other student achievement results. She will present that during our State of the Schools address on the 15th. Mr. DeAndrea will also give you a fiscal state of the district. Ms. Reese will give you an understanding of where we are personnel-wise in the district, as well as operations. So that will take place on Tuesday the 15th, as well as that food services presentation. But as you can see, we'll work our way through January, February, March. We'll ask the board to give us preliminary approval on the 15th of March. That has to be submitted by the 22nd to the county DOE. The county DOE by the 25th should give us their approval or not of our budget so that we can conduct our public hearing on May 3rd. And then obviously we're looking to submit that budget after it's approved, hopefully by the Board of Education on May 3rd, by the 9th, so that it can be submitted to the tax certificate, County Board of Taxation by May 19th. So that, in essence, is our budget calendar. These presentations are designed to create an open forum with regard to the money that we're proposing to spend in each department, in each school, in each integral area of the school district that we have to budget for. It's our opportunity to answer questions and also to collect feedback from the public and obviously from our Board of Education members. So, Board of Education members, are there any questions about the kickoff? If not, I give you Mr. Pantiliano and Mrs. Komprowski for the Buildings and Grounds and Capital Projects budget.
I don't have it. Ready? I'd like to take this time to thank the Sayreville Board of Education, Dr. Labby and his administrative staff for affording us the opportunity to present the 2016-2017 facilities budgetary considerations. I'd like to introduce Mr. DeAndrea, our business administrator, Mr. Pantiliano, our director of facilities, and I'm Sherry Komprowski, supervisor buildings and grounds. The facilities department is dedicated to reducing costs while still maintaining the same high standards and keeping up with ever-changing federal and state laws. This year's budget reflects this and is based on using as much of our resources in-house and sharing of the borough's services to achieve this. The district is comprised of 7 school buildings and 1 administrative office. The total combined square footage of all buildings is 914,678. The facilities department is staffed with 50 custodians, 8 maintenance men, 3 groundsmen, and 2 stockroom. I would now like to turn this over to Emilio to get us started.
What I've done is prepared a comparison of what was expended in 14-15, what our current adjusted budget is, and what the proposed budget is for the following year. There are some slides at the end that Mr. Pantiliano will go much more into detail into the areas that we felt are much more important for the board to understand the kind of services and things that his department does within the district. Not going to go through the numbers. If anybody at any point in time has questions on them, we ran the totals. Not included are utilities and salaries. These are strictly the programs or line items that are within their control. So as you can see, 14-15, we expended 1.3, almost 1.3. Our adjusted budget for this year is 1.4, and next year's budget is being proposed at 1.4. Capital outlay is the one area that you'll see the most significant. We spoke about it, and we thought it was imperative that we put the things in this budget that Mr. Pantiliano felt were the things that the board needed to hear and consider. As you can see, for the 16-17, almost $5 million in capital projects. And with that, I give it to Mr. Pantiliano.
Thank you, Mr. DeAndrea. Last year we did gym floors. We have an ongoing program where we continually want to do our gym floors for various reasons. We did the high school refurbishing. We did a whole new logo on there. Came out really nice. We constantly want to keep this program going with the painting end of this classrooms. We are adding blinds, the Truman School, the Truman School exterior door replacement, the middle school door replacement. We added wireless clock systems throughout the district. We have one more school we'd like to do, and that would be Truman. You'll see that later on. The middle school staff threads. We have several towers up there that are constantly being used. They're constantly being abused. We've been changing them through the years. This year in-house, we refurbished a B18, which was an old home ec room with cabinets and all kinds of refrigerators and all kinds of stuff. We renovated it. It came out really nice. The high school, we have special needs children where we were using portable air conditioners. The principal came to me and designated 4 classrooms. We put air conditioners in them, and they're being used for special needs children. We have miscellaneous improvements that we've done through the years, and we're going to be putting blue strobe lights in common areas throughout the district.
And if I could, I just want to make one comment. Last year, when we initiated this budget process, we were going to bring in the high school air conditioning and the refurbishing of B18 at the middle school with outside contractors. But under the guidance of Mr. Pantiliano, we were able to do all of that work with our own maintenance staff, and we continue to do a lot of things in-house. So I wanted to make sure that the board understands. Although looking last year when we developed this to do it with an outside contractor, we were able to do that work in-house with our staff. We had to purchase the materials, but our staff did the work.
These are other accomplishments that we accomplished this year, which would be snow removal, landscaping service, repairs to our athletic field. We had a drainage problem up on our bleachers, home side bleachers. We took care of that. We didn't do the sidewalk repair yet up at the middle school, but we have intention of doing that early spring. We decided to hold off on that until we see our way through the heating season, because we really don't know what unforeseen conditions we may have with that. We did the loading dock stairs down at Eisenhower. The middle school steps going to the main gymnasium was a tripping hazard. I replaced that, and we also did I paved the black path going from Slover School, middle school to the high school, and also in the front of Slover School. These are our contracted services. Once again, we have the gym floors up in there. Principal asked me to get a price on doing the dimming system in our auditorium. The district classroom painting. Once again, the blinds we would like to continue. Our school computer lab, we had a fish tank that exploded on us and destroyed that carpet in there. I'd like to replace that with vinyl flooring. Eisenhower School, I'd like to put wireless clocks in like I did throughout the district. The middle school exterior doors, we have doors up in the middle school that are chained, lock chained. I'd like to continue replacing those doors up there also. Truman School, we have some doors up there that desperately need to be replaced. Once again, Truman School with the wireless clock system, Truman School with the exterior painting. We have a facade surrounding that building that needs to be addressed. It has to be painted to just dress up that appearance of that school. Wilson School, the faculty room downstairs, it has a carpet in it. Underneath it is VAT, vinyl asbestos flooring. I'd like to remove that and get vinyl flooring in there. And last year, we replaced classroom and office classroom locks, which now they can be locked from the inside of the classrooms. We'd like to continue that in common areas such as storage areas and things of that nature. And then once again, we have $100,000 for miscellaneous items that we need to address. Once again, this is our contracted services. We have snow removal, landscaping service, repairs to our athletic fields, our turf field grooming. We have to have this done every year. Our grounds field maintenance, I implemented, thank you, Mr. Angie, a program, we have a fertilization program going on our athletic field. I'd like to continue that. The middle school sidewalk in the front of the D-wing is deteriorating badly, becoming a tripping hazard. And Eisenhower School, the parking lot sidewalk is also deteriorating. These are our capital improvements, layouts. All the school univents. they're in drastic need of being replaced. We replaced 13 univents in a short hallway. I'd like to continue now in a long hallway. Our school windows, they're bad. When it's windy out, wind comes through there, no matter how much heat we throw into these classrooms, with the wind in there, it's just taking that heat right out. The high school paving was a request by someone to pave the parking lot. The middle school air conditioning in the gymnasium was also a request. The middle school E-wing heating and air conditioning units, those units up there are literally rotting out. They have to be replaced. They're creating leaks up there. We've been patching them, and they have to be replaced. The middle school boys' locker room needs to be renovated. It's in very bad condition. The middle school gym windows, the reason why we didn't finish up these floors is because the windows up there are so bad that when it rains out, water comes pouring through and destroying our floor. So I'd like to see if I can get those windows repaired or replaced before I finish that floor up there, because we're just throwing good money into bad money. We have a situation up in the middle school. We have an erosion ditch on the eastern end of the building, which has to be remediated. Truman School permanent wind walls. This was a request by the principal. We have clusters up there where there's 4 and sometimes 6 classrooms in one area. The principal asked me to get a budgetary price on that, which is up there. Slover School boiler and univents. I've been repairing these boilers ever since I've been here. They're drum boilers. They're rotting away. My contractor that's been repairing them, he tells me, Dan, I don't know how much more I can be repairing these boilers. The SUES backup generator, we put a backup generator up in this particular school 3 years ago. It's now backing up this room, all our refrigeration, our boiler room, our MDF room, and a lot of our lighting in this school is used by the town for emergency purposes. I would like to also put a generator in the SUES for the same purpose. Wilson School bathrooms, those bathrooms are original bathrooms. No one ever touched them up there. I'd like to start renovating those bathrooms. And district-wide, I would like to start this year, we upgraded our security system. I'd like to continue upgrading our security system by adding internal cameras throughout the district. Same thing with our card swipe system. I would like to put card readers on the inside of our schools to give us more lockdown security when need be. And our athletic field track, we put that in every year. Does it have to be done? Maybe we can get away with another year, maybe another 2 years, but sooner or later it's going to have to be done. It's the same thing with our athletic field. If we're reaching the life expectancy of that field, although we've been grooming it, it's coming to the end of its life. Any questions from the board?
Mr. Pantiano, the clusters, the $300,000, we'd be putting up, I'm assuming, non-load-bearing walls. Is that something that your people can do? Is it a lack of people? Is it just a skill set that we don't have in-house because of the amount of work?
We have the capability of doing it. It's unfortunate that we don't have the time.
So it's a time.
It's a time issue.
Okay.
We definitely have the technology, and we definitely have the ability and the manpower. It's just that the amount of time that it would take to do both clusters, I can probably do one, but two, kind of tough.
But you will be doing some work with regard to that, will be saving us money.
We will be, yes, we will be doing the PA system. We'll be adding a PA system in the area, along with our wireless clocks, and doing some minor electrical work.
The 300,000, I'm sorry, the 300,000 is not all exclusive outside contractors. We are doing some internal work.
We'll be doing painting, we'll be doing things of that nature.
And if I can just jump in a little bit more with regard to the rationale for that project, if you have not been to the Truman School and have not seen the children in those clusters, they desperately need these walls. You have 25 to 26 kids in a classroom, all right, and they're basically, it's an open wall. So you figure if there's 4 classrooms, you've got 100 kids with no walls. in there. It's loud, it's crowded, it's actually not safe either. One of the things that we looked at when we looked at our facilities with regard to safety in our lockdown drills, those kids need a secure place to go to. If one of those areas gets breached, all those kids are in danger, as opposed to if they were in classrooms with walls. Finally, one of those clusters can actually fit 6 classrooms and not 4. But because there are no walls, we only have 4. We can actually get 2 more classrooms out of the Truman School to help us with our overpopulation problem that we have now and that is only going to get worse.
Any other questions?
Mr. DeAndre, what is the decrease in $75,000 for the police coverage?
I moved that over to where it appropriately belongs. It's under the security line item now. It's been under maintenance, and it really shouldn't be. It really belongs with security. So that's why it's there. And that'll be a larger number under the security than the 75 you see.
With regard to the all-purpose athletic field, I remember when we put that in about 10 years ago, and I think we were told that it's got a life expectancy of about 10 years.
8 years when we put it in.
It was 8 years when we put it in.
The gentleman at that time said 8 years,
Oh, 8
because
years.
that was the longest standing field they had in place at that time. We're going on year 9.
Okay, so that kind of answers my question, because my question was going to be, is there anything else that we can do, from an equipment standpoint or whatever, to better maintain those fields to get additional life out of them?
Yes, well, this year, what we did, we did a really deep cleaning. We took quite a bit of the pellets out of there to give us more of a GFAC. There's just a limited amount of work that we can possibly do to extend the lifetime of that field.
And I can tell you, Mr. Sayak, is when I was down at the convention, I stopped at one of the booths, the actual field turf. It's not so much just the pellets, it's the fibers. It's the fibers that start to deteriorate that you lose the field more than anything. So we're doing our best maintaining it and keeping it up to speed.
We are constantly grooming. We have a grooming machine. We constantly groom before every game and after every game.
Yeah, it sounds like that's one of those items, especially if it's going to have an annual, or have a 10-year life expectancy, that, once we replace it, maybe we should get in the habit of budgeting for capital reserve for 1/10 of that every year, because it's a huge
Be a good idea.
hit, and we know it's going to be recurring. A roof, you might get 20 years, you might get 30 years, it varies, but for something like this, we've got pretty good evidence that it's going to be an 8 to 10-year lifespan.
I agree.
Any other questions? And if I could, but when we presented the budget to the Infrastructure and Finance Committee, the one thing that is becoming evident is that there is a lot of work that needs to be done in the district, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do it through a capital reserve for all the items that are going to eventually need to be done. So we have to start thinking long-term, and coupled with that, and I know where Dr. Labby's going, we got to address the overcrowding problem, folks. It's a major concern. It's going to start hitting us and hitting us hard.
And maybe that's a subject we discussed during open discussion. What are our long-term plans for the overcrowded state we're in now that's only going to get worse?
One more question. The trench that was on there, that's the E-wing outside those doors?
That's correct. I also want to point out that this year, we also did the roof here at the high school, which it wasn't for. We took that out of capital reserve, along with our security upgrade.
We did about $1.8 million in projects this year from the capital reserve. Hopefully, after the audit's completed, hopefully it'll be around $200,000 and $250,000 in capital reserve, and still waiting on refunds from the state on ROD grants, waiting to close out one project until I can file. So we'll be able to build up some of that capital reserve, but that number has also been dwindled down to a bare minimum.
If there's any consideration that can be made, please make consideration to have boiler up in the Slovis School. I have very concerns about that.
Isn't that where my office is?
It's right underneath, it's right underneath your office, sir.
Boiler room right underneath your office.
Buy a space heater.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah, Mr. Pantiano, before you leave, I'd like to open up for the public for any questions about what was just presented right now. So if you'd like to come up and have any questions. So just stick around in case there's some questions that are beyond our skill set. Mr. Bovary.
You got skills?
You
got skills?
Yes, he does.
In this world, I know your skills. I'm not sure. I just, wow. This page, right? Yeah, which I don't know if it's still up there, but it's the one called capital outlay, line-by-line budget item, which 2 years ago in 14-15 had actuals of 750,000. 2015, 2016. It's got a adjusted budget of 400,000, a couple sides back, right?
Yeah.
There you go, okay? I don't know, am I the only one that got scared of looking at this slide? Okay, right? 2 years ago, we spent $800,000 on all these arenas, and current year, it looks like we're on target to spend $400,000 on these current arenas. And now we've added a whole new digit, and it's 5 million. Okay, right? I guess to help me and anybody else understand this, if I could have rolled back the clock a year ago, and maybe this fancy guy with the computer can do that with his agendas, Andrew, right? What would have this slide read last year when these three folks came up and said, first budget, this is what we propose we do, because that's what this is first look, proposing what to do, $5 million worth of stuff. Does anybody remember what last year's proposal of what we wanted to do last year?
Probably wasn't far off to that number.
5 million.
Probably more 4, but it wasn't that far off.
And it's turning out to be 380,000?
Correct.
A lot of these
Oh,
items
okay.
are repetitious.
Okay, so we ask for them every year, we say no every year, and we keep asking every year?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so I shouldn't
Some
be
of them are, yes.
I shouldn't be scared. There's no chance in hell we're going to spend $5 million. Okay, right, yeah, no problem.
Not
I
unless you
get it.
donate it, John.
I'm sorry?
Not unless you donate it.
Yeah, if I get the right 6 numbers, I'll take care of that, right? You know,
I'm gonna
okay,
hold
right?
you to it.
Got a few, yeah, absolutely, right? You know, I got my name somewhere though, right?
Sure, correct.
Right, yeah, right? And you get Bon Jovi back at the same time, take his money, give him his name. Okay, right? Okay, no problem. So there should be no reason to be scared of that number, okay, because reality is somewhere potentially with a different number of digits.
And just so you understand, when you're including in there $300,000 that are really not even capital projects.
Yeah.
That's our repayment to the state
That's what
for
you're
applying for grants.
Yeah, that's
So
in line with what's happened every, yeah.
It's
that-
in
that's
line,
with
but
every
when you
year.
look, it's
Yeah,
it's
gotcha.
even
I-
less in capital projects.
I guess I just didn't remember seeing these out of whack numbers in the past, and I guess I didn't look close enough, all right? Thank you.
Anybody else? Mrs. Kilcummins.
You guys can go. Oh, I'm sorry.
Barbara Kilcummins. One item here I feel like is extremely cheap, $5,000 for snow removal. Is that an outside contract?
We do a lot
We
of
do
our
our own.
snow plowing. We never did that before until I came into the district. The town helps us immensely with removal of snow. They do it ever since I've been here. They've been helping us remove snow, yes. So just in case we can't get their assistance for some unknown reason, that number is in there for a backup, just in case we may need snow removal.
Well, the only thing I was concerned about is mainly like the sidewalks. A lot of students have to walk to school, and there's a huge amount of sidewalks between the library from Burks Park, around the high school and all. That's a lot of sidewalks, and I know that they plow them, but
We just bought.
We get 'em done.
We just bought a new half-track that's gonna take care of all of our sidewalks, district-wide.
The other thing, Dennis, like you have done projects, which I was really happy to see, Wilson School, all the plumbing. during the summer and save, the town a lot of money. Why couldn't the wall clusters be done in the summertime, this coming summer, by in-house?
It could be, Barbara, but unfortunately, I don't have enough time to accomplish that whole entire, it's a monumental task. I only have 8 maintenance staff, okay? And there's other needs that got to be done to get the school prepared for school for September. I would love, that's right up my alley, to build something like that. But unfortunately, I'm a little skeptical not getting it completed for start of school in September. I will assist.
How many walls are there
Oh,
that's
quite a bit,
needed?
Quite a bit, quite a bit.
And if, Dennis, if I could.
See, I never
And just
agreed
keep
with
in
that
mind,
open classroom
we're not just-
idea anyway in the
we're not
beginning,
just talking
years ago.
walls in between, you're talking, we have to recreate hallway
You have
walls.
to construct a corridor, yeah.
You got to construct corridors,
The
you got to
demising
pass the
walls.
code, you got to make sure you meet the code requirements.
The corridor walls, the demising walls, which means they got to go all the way to the deck, which means we have to penetrate the existing ceilings. We're going to be doing quite a bit of work up there, Barbara.
Well-
We're going to be doing lighting, electric, painting, anything possibly we can do, we're going to do up there to cut down that cost. That's right up my alley. And believe me, if I had more of a staff, and if I didn't have much other obligations, get the schools prepared, I would love to tackle that.
Over the years, I have been, I guess, very supportive of all maintenance to the schools. We dragged our feet with roofs, and I've often said, if you don't have a roof, you don't have a building. And that's an investment, and to keep our schools, I mean, there are certain things, windows, door locks, they are a major, a priority for the school district. And it's just like a home. You don't maintain it, starts falling apart, and it costs you more money. So I totally agree with the majority that you have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And one thing about Mr. Pantoliano, that he's established a very good working relationship with Bernie Bailey and the borough, and as we should be doing these types of things together, and that's helped us immensely developing that and nurturing that relationship. And I also said this about Mr. Pantoliano. Since I've been on the board, this is probably one of the best hires that I voted on. And I've always said about Mr. Pantoliano, I wish he was here when we started this construction on this high school. And things would have meant much different, because you have a person that's knowledgeable and he's dedicated to this school district, and it shows, and the results, and exactly what you're talking about. And I know you've always been, over the years, an advocate of updating our infrastructure, and this is the guy that's making it happen. So appreciate your time tonight. Any other
And he
questions?
looks good in a suit.
What's that?
And he looks good in a
Does
suit.
look good in a suit.
Well, he's not my type, but he's okay.
I recommend he wears a suit all the time.
Then he would
So,
get it.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Kaprowski, thank you. Dr. Labby, your show.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, if I can direct your attention to the superintendent's report, beginning with Vision 2030 Finance and Infrastructure on page 2. Item number 1, and then again on number 12. 1 can be found on page 2, 12 can be found in the addendum. We're asking you for your approval on non-public security aid to contract with Adalex Communications. Number 2, which can be found on page 2, we're asking you to approve the submission of the amended application for funding under the No Child Left Behind Act. I think we explained that during our last Board of Education meeting. We do a final report for the NCLB grant as well as the IDEA grant. If there is any money that has not been spent, we have to then amend the current application to incorporate that money into it, and that's what Dr. Shediak did here. Number 3, which can be found on pages 2 through 4, we're asking you to approve a resolution to refund all or a portion of outstanding callable refunding school bonds. That's the Series 2006. Number 4, we're asking you to accept the gracious and very generous donation of 5 unassembled Bernhardt violins. If you know something about violins, Bernhardt is a very, very expensive product. We have a staff member, Mrs. Stacy Vetter, who is a teacher at Sayreville Middle School. Her mom happens to work for this insurance company, and they provided us with these violins and asked us if we'd like to accept them as a gift, and we graciously did. They do have to be assembled, but the estimated value of each one is about $1,000 for each violin. That can be found on page 4. Items number 5 through 7, which can be found on page 4, we're asking you to approve several facility usage permits. Number 9, we're asking you to approve the use of 2 board buses on Wednesday, December 2nd. That would actually be tomorrow, to shuttle parents attending conferences at the Sam Sell Upper Elementary School to and from the high school. Number 10, on pages 5 through 6, we're asking you to approve several trips, field trips with transportation costs. Number 11, which can be found on pages 6 and 7, we're asking you to approve specialized transportation for an out-of-district student. We have a student at the Mountain Drive School up in North Jersey, an auditory impaired student who is participating in extracurricular activities. And in accordance with the law, we do have to provide that. Number 13, we're asking you to approve the use of a board bus on 3 upcoming dates to transport 30 Sayreville High School students and 2 adults to the Sam Sell School for the Heroes and Cool Kids program. You can find that on the addendum, as well as those 3 dates that are listed. Any question on Vision 2030 finance and infrastructure?
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, press on.
Student achievement, items number 1 through 6, we're asking you to approve these co-curricular activities. You can find them on pages 7 through 8. Some of them are trips and some of them are actually activities. Vision 2030 governance, we're asking you to approve the November 2015 HIB report, as well as any recommendations for actions made by me. Any questions on student achievement or governance? Seeing none, I'll press on. Oh, Mr.
Just
Mr.
a
Sack?
comment back on finance, and it's only a comment. I'm very glad that we are pursuing the Heroes and Cool Kids program. When we do the Middlesex County Student Recognition Dinner, I know a lot of the honorees from other districts are part of that program, and I'd never heard of it before until I started doing that, and I'm glad that it's coming to Sayreville.
Yeah, thank you. I attribute that all to Ms. Mayer, who does a wonderful job searching out different types of programs that would benefit the students at Sam Sell.
Excellent.
Vision 2030 personnel. Item number 2, we're asking you to accept the resignation of a night custodian here at the high school. Items number 3 and 21. 3 can be found on pages 9 through 10, and 21 can be found in the addendum. We have some leaves of absence. So it's actually 4 leaves of absence. Number 4, we're asking you to approve 4 certified replacement teachers. That can be found on page 10. Number 5, we're asking you to approve a part-time paraprofessional. You can find that on page 11. Number 11, we're asking you to approve the transfer of a cafeteria worker from the high school to the Truman Elementary School. It's effective tomorrow. Number 12, on page 12, we're asking you to approve the 2015-16 Winter Extracurricular Activity Advisors. Number 13, which can be found on page 12, we're asking you to approve the high school freshman basketball coach substitute. We have one of our coaches is going out on a leave, and of course we need a coach to substitute for that person while he's out on leave. Please note that the salary that would have gone to the original coach is going to the substitute, so there's no extra salary money there. It's all part of that one salary that the original coach was getting. Number 14, we're asking you to approve Mr. Bazzuli for consultation services. You can find that on page 12. We discussed this a little bit in executive session. This is done because originally when we contracted with Mr. Bazzuli as a consultant, it was done as a 1099. Now that Mr. Bazzuli has done some substituting for us and is actually an employee as a substitute, we now have to, in essence, approve him now in this format. Mr. DeAndrea, I don't know if you want to jump in.
That's
pretty accurate in that description. Thank you. Number 15, we're asking you to approve a consultant for the band. retroactively. Number 16, we're asking you to approve several teacher stipends for participating in an NCLB Title III supplemental evening parent program. That's something that is mandated that we do, and we need our teachers to participate in that, so we need to provide them with a stipend. Number 17, which can be found on page 13, we're asking you to approve Literacy Academy substitutes. As you know, the Literacy Academy is going along quite well. We are getting tremendous feedback from our principals as well as some of the parents of students that are attending it. However, there are occasions when the teachers that are working in the Literacy Academy are sick and can't come to work. Therefore, we have to have substitutes available to call them in to work the Literacy Academy if they're not able to attend. Number 18 and number 25, 18 can be found on pages 13 and 14, and obviously 25 can be found on the addendum. We're asking to approve professional days. Number 19, we're asking you to approve the return of a high school teacher to his teaching position effective tomorrow. That can be found in the addendum. Number 20, we're asking you to approve the salary increment withholding of that actual employee. And that will not take place until the 2016-17 school year, so that is a mistake on my slide, but it's correct on your addendum. That salary increment withholding would take place 2016-17. Number 14, we're asking you to approve a wrestling coach volunteer for the high school, as well as a spring weight room volunteer also for the high school. That can be found on the addendum. And number 14, we're asking you to approve one non-certified substitute, and that can be found on the addendum. Oh, my numeration is wrong there, I'm sorry. On my slide.
Okay, any questions from the board?
I have a question.
Mrs. Backo.
I have a process question more. For the cafeteria worker, I see that they're going from a lower salary to a higher salary from one school to another. When those positions come up, say like that $12,000 job, are all the cafeteria workers offered up if they want to transfer to a higher salary before we go looking for someone? Is that how it works? Because since there's a difference in salary.
In most cases, yes. In some cases, there's a need for a managerial move where someone could go.
Ms. Reese, can you speak into the microphone? Can you speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry. For most cases, yes, we post them. But if there's a very big need, like one of the transfers here, they had a real big need to move somebody immediately to try it and then post it. So for the most part, yes, it's posted. But there are times where we've switched people just from one building to the next.
Right, but if you switch people, I didn't realize there was such a discrepancy in salary. If you were to switch people, in this case, the person's going up in salary, what would happen if it was the other way around? What do we do?
This was from the elementary to the high school, so it was actually more hours and more days.
Right, but what you
Right.
say, but a manager can just do it. What would happen if it was, you felt the other way? We can't lower the salary, can we, of someone by transferring?
No, I mean, if someone wanted to have the lesser amount of hours.
Right, but it would have
yes.
to be voluntary.
It is. They ended up having a lot of conversations. I mean, I'm kind of aware of what those situations were. So they needed someone to work longer, just different issues. People agreed to do so.
Any other questions? Just as a matter of practice, I overlooked something in my overzealousness and excitement about listening to the Buildings and Grounds budget presentation. I forgot to get approval for the minutes. So I want to go back and do that just to close that out before we vote on the superintendent's report.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
make a
McNamara.
motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. We're approving the minutes of the regular and executive session meeting of November 17, 2015. If nobody has any objections, additions, deletions in the minutes, I'd like to entertain a second motion to
Well,
update.
I gave the video one correction on that.
There is one correction
Okay.
that Mr. Balka gave me.
Okay.
So-
Misspelling in the
He-
name.
Spelling?
Is Mrs. Balka instead of Mrs. Botko on there.
That's
so
happened a couple of
it
times.
happened
I made a
before, yeah.
suggestion that we use first names on the agenda
Yes.
instead of Mr. and Mrs. It might help with
Okay.
the problem.
Roll call vote,
You need a
please,
second.
with that major change.
Second.
Who's your second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Balka?
Yes.
Mrs. Backo?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Sayak?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mrs. Trapp? Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. McEnroe?
Since I'm going to abstain since I had a family emergency and I had to leave the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, since we've no other questions from the board on the superintendent's report, I'll open up for the public for any questions or comments on the agenda items. I will open it up again for any business that may come before this board. Any comments or questions? Mrs. Kilcombe?
One quick question. What is a non-public security aid? And the amount
yeah.
for communications?
Okay,
It's a new grant that came out from the state this year that entitles non-public schools to apply and receive money through the state. And as part of the requirement, since the board is the third-party handler of all those funds, we have to provide proof that the board approved of those funds to be expended.
The other question was, let me find it quick. The former athletic director or so, Mr. Petruzzi, what is it?
Pizzoli.
Why is that $100 per hour? I mean, we'd be paying him $800 a day, whatever.
It's for hours as needed. It's not all in one day. Or, it's not.
Is that the
daily.
going rate?
That was the marketable rate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion and entertain a vote to accept and file the superintendent's report.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
I need a roll call vote.
Mr. Bauka?
Okay, I have to vote no on page 11, number 8.
I'm sorry, page 8?
No, page 11, number 8, sorry. Yes on all other items.
Thank you. Mrs. Bacco?
On page 12, number 14, I'm going to vote no. And page 11, number 8.
I'm sorry, what else?
11, page 11.
Got it. Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Syak?
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mrs. Trapp?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. McEnroe?
Yes. Finance and infrastructure. Anything else to add based on the briefing we had today, Dan?
The high school roof is down to the punch list items, so that's going good. We discussed about the boiler issues at Slover in more detail, but class sizes and how to plan for future increased enrollment, that's something we might be coming up again in shortly, I think.
Oh, it's going to come up.
And, we went over the facilities budget requests like you saw today, and
Right.
we also reviewed some of the unforeseen expenditures in this year's budget, trying to keep a good eye on creating some fund balance to help next year's budget. And that was it.
Well, appreciate you guys doing that work, because I know it's a lot more involved than what you just see here, so. Student achievement. I know we didn't have a meeting, but we have some news, don't we?
We had a very short meeting before this meeting. We were discussing some preliminary results from the park scores. All in all, we were pretty happy with the way the scores turned out. We have scores relative to the nation and the state, and Mrs. Shediak's going to give us a presentation at the next meeting and go into much more detail.
But it's good news. We
But it's-
exceeded the state in the national, on almost all categories, so it's pretty good. And we'll wait for a more detailed, next meeting, that's going to be on the agenda, okay. Policy, anything?
We'll be having a meeting in the coming week to discuss the adjustment of our policy with regard to the kindergarten entrance age, also a possible policy with regard to looping, and a possible policy with regard to teacher requests by parents.
You mean parents requesting a particular teacher?
Yes. We don't currently have any policy regarding that. It's kind of an unwritten rule, and it may vary from school to school, and we're looking to codify that process.
There's a need for that, I guess.
There's a need to regulate it, I think, is the process.
I think it
was
would-
coming from Dr.
Is that a
Labby.
common occurrence? Or?
It's becoming more frequent.
It would greatly assist our principals in making those types of decisions. Obviously, a lot goes into the placement of children in classrooms. And that work is performed primarily by the teachers and the administration. And there are often times when the principals are pressured by parents to put children in particular classes. And they would like some support via Board of Education policy in, making those decisions.
So the principals are requesting this policy, is what you're
Yeah.
saying? What
Yep.
was the first policy you said?
Looping was one, and the kindergarten
Okay.
entrance age. We
Really
discussed
interested
that
in
the
seeing
last
how that's
meeting.
worded.
Yeah.
I remember
We've got some possible
Sister
wording.
Mary Arlene was always my teacher. We never had her.
We've got some possible
Never
wording
had
that
to say.
Dr. Labby and I discussed that we both think will work.
Well, we feel very strongly that all of our teachers are exceptional.
Sure, I understand, but you have these things, I get it. Okay. Personnel, anything?
We did not meet this week.
You're going to meet this week,
We're going to meet next week.
the 8th?
Yeah.
All right.
15th.
Or the 15th. We snuck the 8th in.
They don't have anything here for you. You have anything to talk about for the new delegate to the State School Board Assembly?
No, we can do that at the next meeting.
I understand that
He's not on.
you are going to be the future president of the National School Boards Association.
Hopefully, yes. The nominations, or the applications were due today, and I'm the only person who put in for president-elect, so that's a good sign.
It's a landslide.
I still have to go before a nominating committee, and they do have the option to not endorse, but
So now you need
it's
one vote, and you're in.
It's a good sign.
All right. Interesting. Congratulations.
I never count my chickens before they've hatched.
My mother used to say that. Under discussions, I want to form a new committee. And I think we need to have a committee to take a look at health benefits. I think that would be very useful, helpful to the negotiating committee, and I think some of the same people on the negotiating committee will also be on the health benefits committee, because it's a very convoluted, it's probably what I understand the least about, and all the different options and how all this plays in, and it gets to a point where I think we really need to concentrate on that. And I don't think during negotiations there's always the environment or the time in which to really talk about these things. So I think forming a committee of the board, and I had a discussion with Mrs. Backo about this, and I think that plays into finance, that plays into negotiations, and I think we really need to get our arms around the different options are out there and where we in Sayreville play in that. And I think it's a big, important issue, not only for the board, but for our union. So we want to put a committee together so that we can work on the side to understand this, so that we can negotiate from an informed position, at least from the board's perspective. So I'm asking for volunteers, and I already have two. It's Mrs. Backo and myself, and is anybody else is interested in being on this committee. I know we're losing Mrs. Trapp, and she's on the negotiating committee. And I'm looking for another board member. So if you're interested, let me know. Give me a call, send me an email. If not, I'll give you a call, Mr. Sack. So, what do you think? All right,
So I'll be expecting a phone call is what you're telling me.
Well, I don't think we have to do it now. So I will vote for you for National School Board President if you help me out on this committee. So,
Mike, can I interject here?
of course.
It's not just forming a committee. These people are going to have to be versed in every angle, every intimate detail of health care benefits.
I understand. It's
this
a
is
learning
whole
process.
series
I
of
think,
stuff.
I think Kevin has a pretty good understanding of that from just having conversations with him. Are you volunteering?
I would if I could.
But you
Oh, you
can't?
can't.
I
that's right.
can't.
But you're absolutely right. I think that's why it's necessary for the board to get a committee to get us informed about it.
Yeah, but
because
there's a lot involved. I mean, this is why you
Ah,
have
look,
brokers,
listen,
because
nobody
they
knows
know
that. Nobody knows that better than me.
all the details. So
I understand.
this
And
has to be you're not going to have it ready for this negotiation session. I
Well,
mean, I don't think anybody's
it's-
that fast to learn.
Well, it's a topic, but
Yes.
we just need to understand, and I myself need to understand all the things that are out there and how this impacts, what the law is, what's sunsetting, what's not.
What's in your contract, what's
Yeah.
not, what you can negotiate away.
I
with.
think it's an important issue, and I think we need to have a committee
Absolutely.
specifically designed to look at it, so.
Good idea, Mike.
Nobody has any objections to that? Well, I don't have to give, we can form a committee without that, okay, so. Any other things before open up for the public so we can get out of here? Nothing, yes.
I've got two items, and Dr. Labby mentioned one of them, the overcrowding situation. And while we're talking about committees, we talked a couple of months ago about the concept of a Blue Ribbon 5 committee to look at all of these different options with regard to how we address the long-term influx of students that we're going to have, how the point factors into this, how any pilot money we may get factors into this, how any money we may get from the point that we've been promised factors into this. I'd like to know if the board is supportive of forming a Blue Ribbon 5 committee. Let's get some members of the public, some parents, and let's figure out where we're going to go with our overcrowding situation. Because I don't think, unless Dr. Labby, you know something I don't think there's any way we're going to address this long-term without eventually going out for some type of proposal that's going to require voter support. Is that a fair statement?
Very.
And if we're going to eventually need a proposal with voter support, I think we need to get the community in now at the ground level so that we've got the people we need to go out and help us move forward with this. The other piece that factors into this, and Mr. Bovary hit it when he came to the microphone, I'm not so much concerned that we're going to have a $4 million increase in capital projects this year. My concern is that $4.3 or $4.4 million was $4 million last year, and that number keeps going up. So as we look at some type of solution, we may need to look at, do we couple some of those capital projects and some of that capital maintenance into whatever solution that we go out to the public with and solve all of this at one time?
Yeah, I agree, and I had mentioned that a meeting or two ago. Would you be interested in chairing that?
Let me think about the chairing piece of it. I want to see, from a time perspective, how that works. Certainly, I would serve on it.
I think we need to have a finance committee member perhaps on that too. Ms. Bloom would be interested, so, and we'll find another person. I think Mr. Bashada might be interested in that as well. So, and then we could get some people from the public, and similar to what was done when we did the construction on this school. I think we had a Blue Ribbon panel committee going in for that, so. Okay,
So-
and that needs to be a priority. I think that's equally as important. We're behind the power curve now.
So then, for the record, I will make a motion that this Board of Education form Blue Ribbon 5 with a constitution to be later approved by the board for the purposes of looking at the future growth of our school district and how to accommodate it.
Okay, I got a motion on the table.
Second.
The only concern, I don't know if you need a motion and a second to form committees.
Yes.
Well, it's a blue
do?
ribbon, it's not a committee.
Okay.
The board president.
It's going to be an ad hoc committee because it's
Right.
going to have members of the public.
Right.
Oh, okay.
The board, if it's just a member of the board committee, I can do that, but,
Well, that's,
right.
give me 1 second. Moved by Mr. Syak, second by Mrs. Bloom.
You don't need a motion for that. You can appoint a chairman to do it. But
Roll
Just for
call?
the record, right, Mike?
Roll call, Mr. McEnroe?
Yes, please.
Mr. Bowker?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Syak?
yes.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mrs. Trapp?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. McEnroe?
Yes.
And can I comment on that, Mr.
Sure.
McEnroe? I also think we need to get this information out to the public. We need the public to put pressure on the Borough Council to not give pilot programs to residential buildings.
Well, I think
It's
that's-
always been done for commercial,
Well, I
and
think-
that's what's going to kill us.
I think that's in the process of happening. I attended the last council meeting and addressed the council again on any updates from the last meeting, and I told them that I will be back next council meeting because I was told that they were interested in making a decision on this by end of the year, and that we're slowly approaching that, quickly approaching it, actually. So I told them I would be back next meeting to get an update, so hopefully that something will be accomplished between.
Yeah, but you're one person. I think we need, more people to get involved in this, because if they realize pilot program goes through,
Right.
and these people are abstained from paying their school taxes,
Right.
and we have to go out for a waiver,
Right.
everybody else in this town is going to pick up for the people who
And I
aren't
think
paying.
Mrs.
And I don't think people
Mrs. Kill
understand that.
Cummins has been very articulate about that at the council meetings as well.
Thank you,
And you're
Barbara.
absolutely right. I mean, that affects us, and I think the council understands, and I'm a little more optimistic than other members of the pilot committee. I think we're going to be successful in this endeavor, especially with the changeover coming in January at the council. I think they understand that, and the mayor's already voiced his agreement that the board should get 56%, which is what we normally get on traditionally taxed properties. So we'll see. We're going to fight the fight. I mean, it's
Thank you.
it's worthy of it. So, without any other discussion, I'll, at this time, like to open up to the board, up to the public for any business that may come before this board. Seeing, Mr. Baldry.
Yeah, real quick, last topic, pilot, right? Getting a little more knowledge each week it goes by. I'm going to try and put myself in the enemy's shoes, right, for lack of a better term, the borough who is giving away the ability to make a payment in lieu of future educational taxes. Why do they do that? Hypothetical question. Do they need to entice the builder to come to our town to do his construction? Otherwise, we're afraid he wouldn't come? That's it in a
Absolutely.
nutshell. Okay? Are they right?
Oh, well.
Would nobody come and build?
Well, the development I live in, the development you live in, the Town Lake development, that wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, times have changed.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I think there's economic.
Yeah, I'm not defending anybody, I'm just wondering, would nobody come and build if that incentive wasn't there? Is that, Sarah's the people, right? Is that their rationale?
It can't be anything else.
But we don't buy it? No. Okay, fair enough. Okay, we think somebody would come and build it, and, was it Field of Dreams, build it, they will come?
Well, you could look at the building that's been done.
I'm sorry?
You could look, I mean, Town Lake was built, there was no incentive. I mean, there are many, Lemaire was built, there was no incentive.
Okay.
People came and built, did they not?
And maybe we need to shut the microphone off for anyone to answer this question, right? You know,
John, I would answer that this particular one.
needed
it's
somebody's
$1 billion
pockets lined to do the job?
I don't know that, but it's a $1 billion project, and I think there's a substantial financial risk for the developer, and they requested that the town consider this, and there's probably people that thought
He would back out of.
Yeah, they went back out of it. Now, I know the one that we're interested in is the pilot program for the small development on Route 35, Old Spy Road, where Club Benet used to be right across.
Yeah, that
the street
sucker's
from it.
going up so goddamn quick.
Yeah,
Who-
and
If
that-
anybody's, are they rentals or purchases?
Those are rentals.
Rentals.
I'm sorry, they're rentals? Yeah, I was gonna say, because
And that
you
property-
would never buy it if you saw the construction work going up.
Right.
Yeah, I get it, right? Yeah, I know that's the short term and long term is the point,
Yeah,
right?
there were 30 kids going to come out of Town Lake, too, so, and that's like 300.
That was their forecast for Town Lake?
Something like that. It was less than 100, now we got over 300, and that's just based on the bus routes.
Okay. I kind of share your optimism that we'll do okay, you know, with the money you'll get, right? But this seems to be a bigger problem than
Well,
just
well,
okay.
We have the same taxpayers as the borough does, it's the same people.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. But as Lucy said, very few people know the ramifications.
Yeah, I agree. Without anybody else, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Our next meeting is going to be December 15th.